I miss him. I miss him being there, every part of him. He was my best friend. And he was really an amazing person.
Hello, you're about to view a very tragic and true story about two friends who were involved in a fatal car crash.
When we were home on vacation, we went out to dinner with an old friend, and after dinner, my husband went with his friend in his car, and I went in my car. The last thing that he said to me was, "I love you and I will see you later." And I said, "I love you too."
The driver, Bill, was Jeremy's best friend since the 5th grade.
I decided that I wanted to spend a little more time with Jeremy that night, so I decided to drive him home, just kind of catch up a little more, and so I decided to drive Jeremy home.
When I pulled up, the vehicle was obviously like quite a ways out into the field. I was amazed looking at the vehicle. It was hard to recognize what model of car was involved in the crash initially looking at it. My first thought was that this was a lot faster and a lot more energy in the crash than I was initially anticipating. As the vehicle came across that berm, it rolled and then rolled through the field here and came to rest out here behind us a little bit. During the rollover, the passenger, Mr. Lugible, was ejected from the vehicle. He ended up dying from his injuries he received in that ejection. Mr. Mon, the driver, however, was able to get out of the vehicle and flag people down to make the emergency notification to 911, and that was because he was wearing his seatbelt during the crash.
I was wearing my seatbelt, and when we had left the bar, Jeremy had his on. And I had asked him if he had trusted my driving, and he said he did. And as an act of good faith, he had taken it off. And I was driving too fast, and I ended up rolling the car. Well, when the car quit rolling, I noticed that I reached across to make sure Jeremy was okay. And Jeremy wasn't there. He wasn't in my car anymore. So I had taken off my seatbelt and pushed my door open and started running through the field looking for him. There's plenty of times I've said to myself that I've killed my best friend.
This is the car Jeremy was riding in. It may not look like it, but it did exactly what it was designed to do. In this rollover, the crumple zones compressed, and the front and back ends of the car absorb the force from the impact. This interior space is called the safety cage. As you can see, there's room at my head, there's room at my feet, there's room on both sides of me. There's really room all the way around me. If Jeremy had only been wearing his seatbelt, there was room to live.
We were called from the hospital saying that Jeremy had been in an accident. He had numerous broken bones and other things, but all those things were fixable, all those things they could fix, but they just couldn't fix his head.
Myself and his parents discussed what we knew we had to do. We knew we had to let him go.
Then we made the decision to take him off life support.
It's a tough deal. Toughest thing we've ever had to experience.
At 9 o'clock, we all went in his room, and I laid in his bed with him. And his parents and his brothers stood around, and we let him go. And it was very peaceful, but it was very hard. The worst thing after that night was I had to tell my children that their dad was an angel and that they would never see him again.
It only takes one bad decision, one time, and 1 second to change someone's life forever. Without a seatbelt, the chance of being ejected is dramatically increased. In fact, those that are ejected are 4 times more likely to die from their injuries. The unbelted driver of this car was ejected through the back window and thrown 30 feet. His car then rolled on top of him. Had he been wearing his seatbelt, he would have stayed in the car and more than likely survived. The same for this driver. She hit a guardrail, rolled her car, and was ejected. This mother died at the scene of the crash. Again, if she had been wearing her seatbelt, her car clearly shows there was room to live.
Seatbelts save lives. Most of these people would have survived the crash or would have been spared life-changing, debilitating injuries if they had been wearing their seatbelts.
Probably doing this video was one of the hardest things, other than Jeremy dying, that we've ever had to do. But if we can just get one kid or one husband or one wife to think about it when they get in the car and wear their seatbelt, it's more than worth everything or how hard it is to do this.
I feel very strongly that Jeremy would still be here had he been wearing his seatbelt.
I totally believe if he did have that seatbelt on, he wouldn't have been ejected. And with his injuries, I know that car rolled over top of him. But he made the mistake in not wearing it that night. He had it on and he took it off. Him and I had a little talk about that in the hospital, and he was laying there. You know, I told him, you really screwed up, Jeremy. Can't be fixed.
As you can see from this family's tragedy, the decision to not wear a seatbelt has had a profound impact on their lives, not only on the lives of Jeremy's family, but Bill's family as well. Yet many people believe that wearing a seatbelt is a personal choice. But is that choice worth the pain, the suffering, and the consequences?
After the accident, I was charged with vehicular homicide. It's a felony, and it's punishable up to 30 years in prison and a $50,000 fine. I honestly believe that I'm responsible for the death of my best friend. There was really no good days after that. You know how everybody has a good and a bad day. I've just had bad days.
As a mother, to see Billy in so much pain, it's hard. Even though he's an adult, he's still my little boy. When he was a little boy, I could take some of the hurt away. This time I can't.
Unfortunately, this pain isn't isolated to just these families. In this crash, 3 young adults were ejected, 2 were killed, and 1 was permanently disabled. As you can see, seatbelts could have kept them properly restrained in the safety cage, where there was room to live. This car hit a deer, rolled 3 times, and all 3 unbelted occupants were ejected. Seatbelts could have saved their lives. This truck rolled 2 times and the driver was thrown from the truck. Had he been wearing his seatbelt, he would have been kept in the safety cage, where there was room to live. This car hit a tree and the unbelted driver went through the windshield. Again, if she had been wearing her seatbelt, she would have had room to live. The evidence is clear. Vehicles are built with room to live. But a vehicle cannot protect you if you are thrown from the car, thrown around the car, or if another unbelted passenger is thrown into you. Only you can stop these tragedies. Only you can stop the pain. And only you can make the commitment to buckle up every time you get into a vehicle.
One of the things I miss about Jeremy is he used to always pat me on the head. He was quite a bit taller than me. So he thought it was really funny to pat me on the head. Yeah, it was kind of a joke after a while. I miss him and Zach fighting over potato salad.
was a good son, he was a good father. You know, he was a good father to his kids. He was a good husband to his wife. You know, he made a mistake. And, you know, he paid with his life.
If he was here right now, I would tell him that I miss him. And that the world's just not the same without him. And that I'm angry that he didn't wear his seatbelt because his kids miss him.
Aru